Part 57. Super Zoo. Author, Yin Seg Nian Bai. Chapter 561. Tingfeng Pavilion became popular faster than anyone expected. Just like the movie, it experienced a spurt of growth overnight. At noon the next day, the private rooms on the second and third floors were booked. On Saturday night, the third day after Tingfeng Pavilion officially opened, the small elegant seats on the second and third floors were already full. Reservations must be made 1 day in advance to get a seat, and this advance time is constantly increasing. The private rooms on each floor are separated from each other and are not connected to each other. When you open the window, you can see the Shuihun Lake directly or from the side. The surrounding environment is unobstructed. Not only is the environment good, but the privacy is also very high. Suming even installed anti-eavesdropping and anti-recording equipment in the private rooms above the second floor. If necessary, each room can turn on the mobile phone and network shielding separately. This kind of gadget is not troublesome, and Shenyang can easily handle it. The moment diners enter the private room, the mobile phone signal will be interfered. If they bring eavesdropping and recording equipment, the alarm will even sound in the room. Unless the guests are willing to turn off the equipment themselves, this is an absolutely confidential room. When designing, Shenyang thought that this was too exaggerated. Tingfeng Pavilion is a restaurant, not the headquarters of the National Security Bureau. Is it necessary to be so mysterious? Besides, if this is done, wouldn't it be equivalent to telling the public that people who come to our Tingfeng Pavilion to eat are people with secrets, and what is done in the private room is a crime that cannot be revealed? Su Ming waved his hand, and this is the effect he wanted. The prices of wine and food in the private rooms on the second and third floors are very shocking. A private room is not big, and the largest private room has only a table for 10 people, but it is normal for a table of dishes to cost tens of thousands. Those who come here to eat are all rich people. What do rich people want? What do local tycoons like? It's just a face. The privacy protection device is installed. Even if the guests don't use it, it doesn't matter. It will make the private room look very upscale. Bring a girl to eat. As soon as she entered the door, the private room called the police. The girl was shocked and asked the boss what was going on. The boss showed an unfathomable look. Under the girl's surprised and admiring gaze, he waved his hand calmly and asked the waiter to turn off the security equipment. This scene is just the best show-off. The key is that in this way, those who are really engaged in criminal activities and private power and money transactions will not come to Tingfeng Pavilion for dinner. For example, if a leader comes to Tingfeng Pavilion for dinner and is photographed, even if there is no private transaction, he can't explain it. If there is no private transaction, why do you run to this place with anti-eavesdropping equipment? Tingfeng Pavilion's second and third floor private rooms are high-end. Su Ming is not afraid of not being able to sell them, but he is afraid that this place will become a trading place where filth and dirt are hidden. That would be a big trouble. Banning and fines are light, and he might even lose money. Installing monitoring equipment is ostensibly to protect privacy, but in fact it is to tell those who break the law and discipline not to come to me, which essentially protects the safety of the zoo and Su Ming himself. After half a week of opening, Hongbo calculated the total account. In just a few days, Tingfeng Pavilion had already earned back the money spent on the renovation. The total income is not high, but the profit is amazing. The restaurant business itself is one of the highly profitable industries. The cost of raw materials for a dish and the price of the finished dish are very different. It is not uncommon for raw materials worth a few yuan to be sold for more than 10 yuan or even dozens of yuan. With Hong Fifei as the chef, the quality of the dishes is guaranteed, and the price can be even higher. There must be wine in addition to food. Another attraction of Tingfeng Pavilion is the supply of Beguo brew from Dashan wine industry. Dashan wine industry has a good sales volume in the market, and it is almost in short supply. After Su Ming carried out an expansion last time, he planned not to expand it within a few years, and to keep the winery at a certain scale for hunger marketing. Therefore, there are not many Baguio wines on the market, and most of them are sold to other places, so there are even fewer Baguio wines in Yangchuan City. In Yangchuan City today, giving Baguio wine from Dacian wine industry as a gift is a very face-saving thing for ordinary people. Although Wulyanjai and Mutai are expensive, you can still buy them as long as you spend money, but it is not necessarily the case with the wine of Dacian liquor. Tingfeng Pavilion has unlimited supply, you can buy as much as you can drink, as long as you don't take it away. Similarly, Tingfeng Pavilion can also eat fish from Shuahun Lake. In the fishery market of Yangchuan City, there are three main sources of fish. About 1/3 of the market is occupied by fish from Huading Reservoir. The fish from Huading has good taste and good meat quality, and the price is about 20% higher than similar fish. The second category is wild fish caught by fishermen along the river nearby, and the third category is supplied by other breeders. The fish raised in Shuahun Lake, which had the best reputation before, has disappeared from the market. The reason is simple. The output of Shuahun Lake is too small. Unless the fish is sold at a sky-high price, Su Ming no longer cares about the income from this little fish, and he has too many connections. It is not good to sell to anyone or not to anyone. It is a matter of offending people, so he simply closed the door to external sales and raised less fish at ordinary times to avoid turning a tourist lake into a fish pond. Most of the fish were driven to the reservoir, and the remaining part was supplied to Tingfeng Pavilion. The special fish of Shuahun Lake, which was once very popular, disappeared without a trace in just a few months. However, some smart farmers in the Yangchuan Fishery Association put up a signboard of imitation Shuahun Lake fish and quickly occupied a part of the market. Yangchuan City Fishery Market cannot be monopolized by one company. No matter how well connected Su Ming is, he cannot monopolize 100% of the market. At present, reservoir fish have occupied more than 30% of the market, and a large number of them are sold to other places, which is enough. Cutting off someone's wealth is like killing their parents, let alone the wealth of farmers in the whole city. Considering that he is also the vice president of Yangchuan City Fishery Association, it is natural to help other farmers to seek benefits. Su Ming not only did not stop other farmers' infringement behavior, but generously shared his experience in fish farming, such as mixed breeding method and pooping method, without any reservation, and won a very good reputation among farmers in Yangchuan City. After this incident, Su Ming truly became the helmsman of Yangchuan City Fishery Association. At present, in the whole city, even in the whole country, only in Tingfeng Pavilion can you eat authentic Shuahun Lake fish. After the operation of Hong Fi Fei's chef team, the four most common carps in Shuahun Lake have become luxury goods. If you invite people to dinner, it is definitely a face-saving thing if there is a lake fish on the table and a few bottles of Dacian wine. In addition, Tingfeng Pavilion is also a filming location in the movie. In the horror zoo, Tingfeng Pavilion is the most upscale hotel in Zootopia and provides special meals for the Queen of Cats. The unique decoration, rare ingredients, superb cooking skills, and the two parrots who occasionally perform cross-stalk, plus the film culture background, have completely made Tingfeng Pavilion famous in just a few days, becoming a unique and irreplaceable feature. At the same time, another good news came, the second week's box office came out. Super Zoo. Author, Yin Seg Nian Bai. Chapter 562. The third week of the summer season, the second week of Zootopia, the box office battle, 3 movies, evenly divided. The 3 movies, the weekly box office exceeded 100 million. Tiny Times 4 and Taoist Priest Goes Down the Mountain, respectively achieved 100 million and 140 million box office, while Zootopia swept 160 million box office, becoming the box office champion of this week, successfully staged a good show of counterattack. Including last week's box office, the total box office of Zootopia in 2 weeks reached 225 million. A movie with an investment of tens of millions, the crew and actors are all unknown, and it has earned more than 200 million in 2 weeks, causing an uproar in the industry. Major websites have issued urgent articles. Phenomenal movie. Domestic conscientious blockbuster. Can bad money always drive out good money? An article Retaliatory Rebound published by Beidou's Hidu is quite representative. The article believes that the reasons why Zootopia has achieved amazing results cannot be ignored, especially the use of animals in the entire filming process, which has set a precedent in the film industry. To some extent, it can be compared with the two epoch-making creations of cabled wire and computer special effects. This alone is not enough to make this slightly immature film achieve a comeback in a short period of time. The box office surge is, to some extent, inseparable from the audience's revengeful psychology. In recent years, with the booming box office market in the mainland, many filmmakers seem to have put more thoughts on the word blockbuster. Everything must be big, the investment must be big, the director and actors must be big names, and the publicity must be large scale. The big movie with big everything ignores the most essential things of the movie. It can't even tell a simple story well, and it is full of loopholes. It can't explain a simple truth clearly, and it is mysterious. It is entangled in all kinds of ways, groaning in the heart, gorgeous on the outside, empty on the inside, taking corny as interesting, and full of expired chicken soup from small coastal magazines 20 years ago. The audience has been fooled again and again. After the overwhelming publicity, the audience walked into the cinema with great expectations, but saw one bad movie after another. In this kind of at that time, Zootopia suddenly appeared, telling a complete and honest story based on universal values, with normal values, and the story itself is very innovative, with special technical means. Coupled with the director Guo Zijian, who is not well known but has rich experience, the picture, plot, editing and other aspects have at least reached the passing line. This movie is full of sincerity, and it does not treat the audience as idiots to fool, or as a sucker to cheat money. The audience's eyes are sharp, the market is fair, and the movie does not deceive the audience, and the audience will not let the movie down. Among a group of bad movies, the small-scale domestic movie Zootopia suddenly appeared and achieved amazing box office. To some extent, the box office phenomenon of Zootopia is an explosion of anger and resentment accumulated by the fooled audience for many years. In addition to the comments on the internet, many filmmakers in the film industry, especially academic scholars, have also spoken out. The quality of the movie Zootopia itself is just like the Dubon score, 7 points out, which is acceptable. The experts' comments were not to praise Zootopia, but to appeal by taking advantage of the phenomenon of Zootopia's box office explosion. The domestic cinema chain has too much market atmosphere. The film scheduling is completely based on the market. Popular themes and imported blockbusters have achieved amazing scheduling even before they are released. However, some domestic films, art films, and films with depth are not valued at all because they do not meet the market, and it is difficult to get scheduling. Facts have proved that although some art films are not as profitable as commercial blockbusters, if the scheduling is reasonable, there is still a certain market and they can earn tens of millions or even hundreds of millions. Of course, since it is a cinema chain, it is understandable to increase the scheduling for movies with good box office by taking the market as the leading factor. But according to the current practice of cinema chains, there is no room for art films with depth to survive. On the one hand, it is difficult to release art films and schedule them. On the other hand, the audience who want to watch this kind of movies can't find a place to watch them. So there is a saying that the audience in mainland China is low level and poor quality, and they are only worthy of watching bad movies. Look at those bad movies, they have achieved a box office of 1 billion yuan, and those art films have only a box office of hundreds of thousands. From a certain perspective, it is not that the audience is low level, but that the theaters have monopolized the scheduling of films, and rudely stuffed bad movies to the audience, leaving them no choice, and finally scolded the audience for their low quality and only worthy of watching bad movies. In the long run, who will make such thankless films? The survival environment of art films in China is worrying. Many experts call for the country to establish a small number of art theaters in the same time as the development of commercial theaters, following the model of Western countries, so that art films can survive. Yeah, Su Ming couldn't understand it. How can Zootopia be considered an art film? He even received a letter from an associate professor of the directing department of Beijing Film Academy, hoping to make a joint appeal. How did Zootopia become an art film? Have you become an artist following me? That's nonsense. From childhood to adulthood, the greatest artistic achievement was probably drawing a naked little man in class. Wang Hao was also good at this, and Su Ming learned it from him. He drew a human figure on a piece of white paper, cut a hole between the legs, and then stretched out a finger from the back. It seems that the living environment of artists is indeed worrying. Even someone like me can be included in the ranks of artists. Su Ming sighed for a while, and finally agreed to the joint appeal. Anyway, people in society are calling for it every day, and no one takes it seriously. After hearing about this, Zhao Yun shook his head and smiled mysteriously, and said something that made Su Ming's heart skip a beat. Don't forget that you still have an identity, a member of the National People's Congress. Zhao Yun said with a smile, looking like he was watching the fun. You won't let me propose a proposal, right? Then which side am I, a representative of the business community or a representative of the art circle? Fortunately, the professors in the industry stopped when they saw the good, and did not make further requests. Su Ming temporarily put this matter aside. In the fourth week, several long-awaited blockbusters were finally released. As expected, including Tiny Times, Zootopia, and The Taoist Goes Down the Mountain, the filming rate of previous movies was greatly reduced to make way for new movies. The tide of the world is surging, and the limelight of Zootopia was soon replaced by the newly released domestic animation Monkey King, The Return of the Great Sage. Monkey King, The Return of the Great Sage was released quietly without any publicity, and achieved a counter-attack within 3 days, making a sensation across the country. After 1 week of release, it has achieved a box office of 200 million yuan, and is still growing rapidly. The box office of several other films has also been successful, especially Monster Hunt, which has shown signs of breaking through the sky. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Super Zoo. Author, Yin Seg Nian Bai. Chapter 563. In the third week of Zootopia's release, the second wave of summer primetime blockbusters arrived, including Monster Hunt, Pancake Man, Gardenia Blossoms, and other long-awaited blockbusters. Perhaps the bad movies finally came out. The Yangtze River's back waves push the front waves, and the alternation of history is inevitable. In order to make way for the newly released movies, all the movies in the previous stage have greatly reduced the screening rate, modified the screening time, and given the prime time and main time to the new movies. Half a week later, Tiny Times 4 was the first to be released, and 5 days later, The Taoist Goes Down the Mountain was also released. In the previous stage, the only popular movie left on the screen was Zootopia. Things change, and this time Zootopia has become a touchstone for the return of the Monkey King. It was postponed for another week and began to compete with the return of the Monkey King. Because the popularity has passed, coupled with the problem of scheduling, Zootopia was completely defeated in the last week of the competition. Some time ago, Zootopia broke out among many blockbusters, instantly overwhelmed passers-by, fought a beautiful turnaround, won full praise from all sides, and was unparalleled in the limelight. However, only half a month later, Zootopia was replaced by another conscientious domestic masterpiece, Monkey King, Hero is Back. The glory that was once given to Zootopia fell on the head of Monkey King, Hero is Back without exception, as if time had reversed and history had been perfectly pasted and copied. The river flows east, the waves wash away, and many romantic figures can only lead the trend for hundreds of years, and all are gone. The historical wave took away the attention, but it could not take away the real box office. Zootopia was finally off the screen, and the final box office was also released. From the original 3-day screening time, it was extended all the way and stayed on the screen for a whole month. The first week, 65 million, the second week, 160 million, the third week, 95 million, the fourth week, 35 million, and the total box office in the mainland was 365 million. Excluding the distribution of various aspects, the net profit of Douyin Entertainment Company and Huaxia Star, the producer, from the mainland box office alone is close to 170 million yuan, and the share that Suming gets must be more than 100 million yuan. An investment of 10 million yuan has earned 10 times in more than 2 months. This is just the visible effect. Horror Zootopia has also brought many intangible effects, such as allowing Suming to complete the entry of the film industry, playing the sign of the zoo, and cultivating 2 human stars and a series of animal stars. All of this will continue to bring continuous benefits to Suming and the zoo over time. No wonder many investors have set their sights on the film industry, which has a short turnover cycle, quick results, amazing profits, and absolute huge profits. There are 2 ways to make money, making money and making slow money. Fast money, such as stocks, has the disadvantage of unsustainable development. Slow money, such as building a factory, has the disadvantage of requiring long-term operation and management, and it is difficult to see results in a short period of time. Suming saw something. The film industry combines the advantages of fast money and slow money, and can make fast money for a long time. Moreover, unlike traditional industries, which require long-term management of factories and employees, a film company can be formed with a floor of office building and a few employees, which is relatively simple. Of course, making money quickly means losing money quickly. If a film with $1 billion investment fails, it is normal to lose a lot of money. The great success of Zootopia has completely established Wang Jianxi's confidence in Suming. Confidence, like reputation, does not appear out of thin air, but is accumulated bit by bit based on past experiences. He came to the zoo as a temporary worker, and in less than half a year, he turned a half-dead zoo into a profitable one and made it a star unit. He started his own business and quietly swallowed up the largest fishery company in the city, and turned around to become the leader of the fishery in the city and even the province. He went abroad and strolled around the occupied area that the whole world was helpless against, and saved people from 2 world powers, becoming a friend of the Russian people. When he was a live broadcast platform, he obviously offended many domestic first-line platforms at the beginning, but now he has become the leader of the National Association and the leader of many platforms. Even when making a movie, he seemed to be a complete layman, but in the end, he spent 2 months, invested a little money, found an unknown director, and a group of non-professional actors. When no one was optimistic about it, it was a great success, almost creating the largest gap between domestic investment and box office, and the highest profit ratio. For such a person, it is hard to imagine what he can't do. Maybe it's luck, maybe it's ability, anyway, everything in the past made Wang Jianxi feel that it's worth betting on Suming, and this is a person who can be trusted. Officials who have reached this level have a different worldview from ordinary people. On the one hand, they believe in science and can be said to be not superstitious at all. In the process of doing things, they will never be deceived by the tricks of the monsters and demons in the society. On the other hand, it can be said that they are very superstitious. All officials have this characteristic, believing that there is a will of heaven in the dark. There are some people in the world who are blessed with great luck. With good luck, everything goes well. It's just that many officials wishfully think that this person is themselves. In Wang Jianshi's view, Su Ming is a person with good luck. Wang Jianshi is the deputy mayor. He looks glorious, but there are countless swords and shadows behind him. There are many problems to deal with. If he wants to sit firmly in his position and make political achievements, he must have reliable allies in the business world. In the past, Wang Jianshi helped Su Ming because Su Ming did make him look good, but the most important point was because of the relationship between Wang Hao and Su Ming. In the final analysis, it was the care and support of the elders for the younger generation. After this movie, Wang Jianshi's thoughts have changed a lot. Even though Su Ming's current financial resources and influence are not as good as those of the big groups and listed companies in the city, Su Ming is undoubtedly a good ally in terms of growth potential and the special close relationship with the Wang family. After the release of Zootopia, Wang Jianshi readjusted Su Ming's position in his heart, an ally who is not very helpful at present, but very close and can be integrated into his core circle. Therefore, Wang Jianshi specifically asked his secretary to call Su Ming and took the initiative to bring up the acquisition of the zoo again. However, if you don't run the family, you don't know how expensive firewood and rice are. 10 times the profit in 2 months, the total income exceeds 100 million, which is very amazing in the eyes of outsiders, even in the eyes of successful entrepreneurs. But in Su Ming's eyes, it is still far from enough. Wang Jianshi's secretary tactfully conveyed the leader's intention that if Su Ming is interested, the government can come forward and borrow money from the bank. From a business perspective, loans are the right way. Spending other people's money and doing your own business can expand business and accumulate assets in the shortest time. But making money is only one of Su Ming's goals, or in other words, a way to realize his life ideals, not the real goal. He doesn't want to take too many risks, and be suffocated by the heavy loans and interest. That kind of life is too stressful. It's time to talk about overseas distribution rights. Super Zoo. Author, Yin Seg Nian Bai. Chapter 564. With the popularity of Zootopia, the first 2 overseas distribution companies, Formosa Viashow and Philippine National Rights, took the initiative to raise their bids, especially Formosa, which directly raised the price by nearly 10 times, 7 million Chinese yuan, and the Philippines also increased it. The total price of both parties is close to 10 million, and this number can still be negotiated. The initial offer of the 2 companies, more than 1 million Chinese yuan, was based on the fact that the box office in the mainland was less than 10 million in 3 days. After 4 weeks, the total box office in the mainland exceeded 350 million, and the other party's offer was of course rising, and a new price higher than yesterday was given almost every day. Su Ming did not give any response, and still asked the entertainment company to send people to treat them to good food, drink, and fun, but did not have any substantive negotiations with the other party. The 2 companies were as anxious as ants on a hot pot. Because with the popularity of Zootopia, more and more companies are interested in purchasing overseas distribution rights. Longwu mentioned 7 or 8 countries such as India, Japan, and South Korea before, and companies have contacted Su Ming and offered not low prices. Theaters in 4 countries have even sent special personnel to Yangchuan City. Although Su Ming did not speak or contact the other party about the price of the distribution rights, he was very frank in other aspects. He did not hide the intention of other countries to buy the distribution rights. Whenever the other company asked about it, the comrade from the public relations department of the entertainment company who entertained them would say with a smile, "General Manager Su is too busy recently, please wait a moment." Don't worry, General Manager Su treats everyone equally. For example, General Manager Su did not receive any company from any country. Then, most of them would ask, Does that company also want to buy the distribution rights? The PR department would say with a smile, of course, not only do they want to buy, but so and so are also in the process of negotiating. Even all the people who came to discuss the distribution rights were arranged to live in the same hotel and on the same floor. The hotel waiter was surprised to find that the small half of the 6th floor was full of foreigners. The strange thing was that many of these foreigners seemed to know each other before. They were all working in the same direction in the industry, so it was not uncommon for them to know each other. The foreigners who came to discuss the distribution rights visited each other during the day and talked about things. Sometimes they would argue and argue until their faces turned red. At night, they would sit in the bar downstairs and drink and laugh. All the people received the same news. The producer Mr. Su agreed to sell the overseas distribution rights, but he had no substantial contact with any of them. Mr. Park, you are a senior in the industry. In your opinion, what does Daowin Entertainment mean? Mr. Sakata, you are too polite. I think it is clear that the other party wants us to compete with each other. But we all belong to different countries. There is no conflict of interest in showing in our respective countries. The price of purchasing the distribution rights does not affect each other, and there is no possibility of competition. Mr. Song Passion makes sense. The Chinese people's thinking is really puzzling. They neither agree nor refuse. If they keep us for nothing, don't they have to spend money? Mr. Chen, there are many Chinese in Singapore. What do you think? Oh, although they are all yellow-skinned, I am not Chinese. Our thinking in Singapore is closer to that of Westerners, it is really hard to judge. Dear gentlemen, I have a suggestion. Since the other party has given us the opportunity to get together, why don't we reach an agreement first? Please speak, Sakata-kun. Obviously, the other party hopes to sell the overseas distribution rights and hopes to sell them at a high price, so they will contact us sooner or later. Then in order to protect the interests of various countries, I suggest that we form an alliance. In the negotiation, no company should harm the interests of other companies. We can negotiate with Daowin Company in a unified manner based on the box office expectations of our own countries and try to lower the distribution price. I agree with Sakata-kun's opinion. I agree too. When the enemy comes, the general will stop him, and when the water comes, the earth will build a dam. If you eat this meal, you won't be afraid of sand knocking your teeth. Su Ming wanted to raise the distribution price, but he never contacted other countries. The countries also had ways to deal with it. They privately conducted a small series of connections and prepared to work together to lower the distribution price of Zootopia. It is hard to say how much this alliance can play a role, but there is strength in numbers. A collective negotiation can definitely bring more pressure to Su Ming than a single company's begging. If it is not handled properly, it will even directly affect the distribution of this film in the whole of Asia. Of course, not all companies in all countries in the alliance are of one mind. Mr. Ike, I understand. Thank you very much for your information. In front of Su Ming sat a thin little man. A deputy general manager of the Malaysian cinema, Ike. The great apostle of Mazda, you are the mentor of all the Jews in Malaysia. It is an honor for me and my family to serve you. Mr. Ike nodded and smiled. Although Zoroastrianism is in decline, it is a world-class sect that has been around for a long time. It is widely distributed all over the world. In the early 20th century, Zoroastrian believers even established a huge business empire, the most famous of which is the East India Company. Many of the branches of Zoroastrianism distributed around the world are Jews, who have very good business capabilities. The owner of the cinema chain in Malaysia is a Zoroastrian. Ike is the owner's nephew, and his family has worshipped the god of fire for generations. When God exists in legends, illusory and untouchable, it cannot respond to believers, but once God walks in the world in the true body of the messenger, it must bring tangible benefits to believers, otherwise it will definitely cause dissatisfaction and suspicion of believers. The God of Fire will reward your loyalty. Su Ming looked like a charlatan. Mr. Al, you can continue to team up with them and negotiate with my company, but I promise you that your cinema is the only authorized cinema in Malaysia, and the release price must be the lowest. Thanks to the generosity of the God of Fire, Al hesitated for a moment and said, please be careful. Those people from cinemas in various countries have rich negotiation experience. Excuse me, in their eyes, you are still a novice. Okay, I understand. Su Ming stood up to see him off. Every industry has the bad habit of bullying novices, because novices don't understand the industry, have little experience, and don't have a wide network of contacts. If you don't bully, it's a waste. If you bully, it's a waste. However, Su Ming was not prepared to be bullied from the beginning. He had no intention of going out to talk to these people himself. Brother Shi, congratulations, you made a fortune this time. Su Ming smiled on the other side of the camera. Congratulations, everyone is getting rich. Long Wu was also smiling. Super Zoo. Author, Yin Seg Nian Bai. Chapter 565. They were in perfect sync. Facing the camera, when talking about money, Su Ming and Long Wu both smiled knowingly. Su Ming and Long Wu co-produced the movie Zootopia. The relationship between the two was in a state of constant change. Initially, Long Wu was motivated by the desire to repay favors and help his younger brother, and did not think about making money from Su Ming. Su Ming wanted to make money by making movies, but to be honest, he was not completely sure at the beginning. His lowest expectation was that the movie would not lose money, and it would be good to have a box office of 30 or 40 million. In this way, he could smoothly enter the film industry. As long as he could prove that there was a market for making movies with animals, he could continue to make movies in the future. Among the people he knew, only Long Wu was an expert who could help set up a professional filming team in the shortest time, and he had rich experience in the industry. Cooperating with Long Wu could ensure that the film review, release, and distribution of the film could be carried out smoothly in the shortest time. Without Su Ming, Long Wu could have made other movies. Without Long Wu, Su Ming could have found other people to help, but the efficiency would not be so high. The two sides initially had a loose cooperative relationship based on friendship. But as the box office soared after the release of Zootopia, the relationship and ideas between the two sides underwent some subtle changes. According to the contract, the producer can share 45% of the total box office after tax. Based on the final box office of Zootopia, it was almost more than 160 million Chinese yuan. The two sides redistributed this money. Su Ming earned nearly 100 million, and Long Wu's Waxia Star earned almost 60 million. Such high box office revenue was not expected by anyone at the beginning. The two did not sign a relevant contract at the beginning. What Long Wu did was nothing more than putting his name on it, helping Su Ming to set up a filming team, and finally helping to contact the theaters for the release, and did some things, but in general, it was a kind of help, not a commercial cooperation. In fact, the box office reached more than 60 million in the first week of the release. When Long Wu and Su Ming were chatting via video, he euphemistically mentioned that our company is shooting in the mainland. Su Ming probably heard the hidden meaning in his words. When he mentioned company, he wanted to have a formal discussion with Su Ming about the box office revenue sharing. According to the momentum at that time, the box office of Zootopia was definitely not a small amount of money that could be ignored. If the standard commercial revenue sharing model was followed, Long Wu's Waxiaxing Company, as the producer, would take a large part, and Su Ming would definitely not be happy. On the other hand, since it was already a big hit, if Su Ming still positioned Long Wu as a voluntary helper and just gave him a few melons and 2 dates to thank him, Long Wu would inevitably have other ideas. Since the total box office had not yet been released, Su Ming did not immediately respond to Long Wu's words, but also said in a tactful way, Let's talk about it when the total box office is released. Now the total box office is out, 365 million Chinese yuan. Such a large box office must be discussed seriously. Everyone has his own standpoint. From Su Ming's standpoint, if Longwu wants to share the profits in the normal way at this time, it is suspected of picking peaches, and from Longwu's standpoint, if Su Ming does not give a penny, it is like crossing the river and destroying the bridge. Whether it is a friend or a partner, if you always make others feel that you are at a disadvantage, it will be difficult to maintain this relationship for a long time. Of course, those who are greedy and want more are excluded. Neither Su Ming nor Longwu are such people, but when it comes to money, especially a large amount of money, this issue becomes a little sensitive. The words must be made clear so that both parties can accept it in their hearts and avoid rifts. 10th brother, I am younger and a novice in the film industry. I will rely on small things to sell small things. The box office is out. How do you think it is more appropriate for us to share the profits? Su Ming took the lead in bringing up the topic. At this time, whoever speaks out his opinion first will be in a passive position, so he smiled politely and said that he relied on small things to sell small things. Longwu smiled, "You are so honest, I appreciate it. To be honest, in our eyes, this money is not our life and property. It would be best if we can make it, but it doesn't matter if we can't make it. If you don't want to say it, I won't mention it, but that would make me look down on you. 10th brother, brothers should settle accounts clearly. When we work together, of course we should win-win," Su Ming said. The word win-win is very interesting. The two did not sign a contract. Longwu came to help at first. If the accounts were divided according to the common way in the industry in the end, Su Ming could only say that he did not suffer any loss. How could it be a win-win situation? If Longwu insisted on the common way of dividing accounts in the industry, Su Ming would agree to the 60 million or even more. But by the same token, in Su Ming's heart, he would inevitably look down on Longwu. At first, he pretended to be generous when he saw that there was no profit, but now that he saw the profit, he couldn't sit still and wanted to share the profits anxiously, which was a bit unworthy of a general. But if Longwu didn't want a penny, Su Ming would not be happy either. It's like two people start a business together and make a lot of money. Even if one of them doesn't contribute much, he finally says he doesn't want a share of the profits. The other person will definitely find it strange. Both parties are in a very subtle psychological activity. Okay, let's not beat around the bush. No one expected this movie to be a big hit. If I don't take some money, not only will I be unhappy, but you will probably feel uneasy too. Longwu thought for a while. Take half, 30 million, including the distribution fee and the fee I paid to Guo Zijian's crew. 30 million is definitely no problem, Su Ming nodded. Hearing Su Ming's ulterior motive, Longwu raised his eyebrows. If you have a better idea, why not tell me? He smiled and tapped his temple with his index finger, saying, you know, I'm old, and my thoughts are sometimes out of touch with the times, not as flexible as you young people. Brother Shi, you're right about the word flexible, Su Ming said. The advantage of my idea is that it is more flexible. Longwu nodded and waited for Su Ming to continue. Su Ming said, this is what I think. Daowin Entertainment is currently setting up a subsidiary film company, and the overseas distribution party. I don't have enough experience, and there are no professional people to do this in a short time. Professional things should be left to professionals. You have been in this business for more than 20 years and have rich experience in dealing with theaters in various countries and regions in Asia. How about I let you handle the Asian distribution rights of this film? Longwu said unexpectedly, you mean I won't share the box office in the mainland, but I will sell the overseas distribution rights of Zootopia in Asia. I will get as much as I sell. Yes, the more you sell, the more you get, and the less you sell, the less you get. Even if you sell 100 million, I won't be jealous, Su Ming nodded. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Super Zoo. Author, Yin Seg Nian Bai. Chapter 566. Agency for Overseas Distribution Rights. Oh no, the word agent is not appropriate. Strictly speaking, the overseas distribution rights in Asia were given to Longwu in return for his previous help. In this way, how much money Longwu can make depends not only on the box office of the movie Zootopia in the mainland, but also largely on the business ability and efforts of his company. This is equivalent to helping Su Ming. Su Ming reported to him a possible opportunity to make money, instead of directly dividing the money. Maybe there will be opportunities for commercial cooperation between the two parties in the future, but this time, the relationship between the two parties can still be maintained as it was at the beginning, helping each other. As for how much the Asian distribution rights of Zootopia can be sold for, it is still unknown. One thing is certain, if Su Ming is allowed to negotiate, he is a novice and lacks experience in dealing with theaters in other countries, while Longwu's Waxiaxing company is experienced. If they operate, the final price will definitely be much higher. Just the distribution rights in Asia will definitely not be 100 million. However, I am sure that it will definitely exceed 30 million. Longwu smiled. It's impossible for me to make all the money in the world, brother Shi. How much money you can negotiate depends on your company's ability. I said, even if it's really 100 million, I will never regret it. It's great if everyone can make some money. But I have a small request. You say. I'm going to set up a film company, but I'm short of talent. There are some capable people, but unfortunately they are all laymen in the film industry. I think I should send someone to follow you and learn how to deal with all aspects of the industry, including this distribution negotiation in Asia. Listen in and participate in the whole process, Su Ming said. Of course, no problem. Since you really want to officially enter the film industry, there will be many opportunities for us to cooperate in the future. Longwu smiled. Then congratulations on making money together, Su Ming said. After a short but very effective conversation, the profit-sharing model of Zootopia was finally determined. Longwu did not reach into Su Ming's pocket to take money, but turned his firepower to other Asian theaters, and Su Ming also provided Longwu with an opportunity to make more profits than expected. Everyone is happy. When it comes to cooperation, Longwu was not polite and proposed a cooperation at that time. His Waxia star is currently investing in a fantasy blockbuster, The Investiture of the Gods. There are many mythical beasts, demon beasts, monsters, and fairy mounts in the film. The main body is animals. The previous plan was to use animation special effects to complete it. This large-scale fantasy film has an investment of up to 200 million yuan, and a large part of the expenses are spent on special effects production. It is handled by an excellent European computer team, and the cost of special effects for every second is a large number. Longwu wants to sign an agreement with the zoo to hire several animals from the zoo to perform. On the one hand, it can save a lot of special effects funds, and on the other hand, the sensational effect of real animals is definitely better than pure special effects. Of course, it is impossible to completely replace special effects, but to cooperate with special effects on the basis of real animals. Su Ming pondered for a while and suddenly realized it. Longwu, this guy, looks simple and honest, but he is actually very smart. This cooperation is definitely not something he thought of at the last minute. He probably had it planned long ago. Maybe he even had this idea when he first asked him to help set up the crew before filming in Zootopia. At the beginning, Jackie's concert only used more than 20 animals and simply cooperated with them, which achieved a sensational effect. Zootopia has proved that it can domesticate animals to be competent for the work of actors. In the world, Yang Chuanzu is the only one that uses animals to make movies. Bollywood and Hollywood, known as the movie Dream Factory, do not have this ability. If I guessed correctly, Longwu's real purpose was to ask me to borrow animals to help him shoot the investiture of the gods. The 30 million he initially proposed was probably a feint. If I don't agree, or show a little reluctance, he will definitely make this proposal. At that time, I will owe him a favor and have to thank him. It must be said that the old ginger is still spicy. Su Ming suddenly thought of a movie that Longwu had invested in before, The Heaven Sword and Dragon Saber starring Jet Li and Xiu Shahan. What did the saying in it say? Not only beautiful women can't be trusted, but also seemingly honest men can't be trusted. The uncle has been through a lot, from being an underground emperor to the chairman of a listed group. He has experienced all kinds of situations. He knows everything. Even if he is helping, he will not do a loss-making business. Zhao Yun suddenly flashed in my mind. This uncle seems to be such a person. Last time the winery expanded and diluted his shares, Zhao Yun did not object at all. Later, it was proved that although his shares were diluted, the income increased significantly due to the expansion of the winery. He was originally a small shareholder without decision-making power, and now he is still a small shareholder without decision-making power. He made more money without any substantial loss. Everyone has different perspectives and ways of thinking about problems. Longwu has Longwu's abacus, Su Ming has Su Ming's. It's okay to borrow animals, but it's impossible to borrow them for free. Finally, it was determined that the total number of animals should not exceed 50, and the total number of working days should not exceed 200. In other words, each animal has an average of 4 working days. If this movie can't use them all, it can be postponed to other movies in the later stage. Huaxiaxing was responsible for helping Su Ming's film company get started. When Daowen Film Company was established, it helped the company train employees. For Daowen Company's next 2 films, Huaxiaxing would assist in setting up filming crews and arranging theaters for distribution according to Su Ming's needs. After shooting 2 more films, Su Ming estimated that Huaxiaxing could get on the right track, officially become a member of the circle, and independently complete a series of film-related work. After negotiating with Longwu, Su Ming focused on setting up a film company. Daowen Entertainment is not a film company. Last time, it was only the investor of Horror Zootopia, so it could not act as a producer. Wang Hao had brought Peng Shui and his group back from the capital, and several major projects of the entertainment company were on track. Su Ming originally wanted Wang Hao to be responsible and divide the film company under the entertainment company. After thinking for a while, Su Ming gave up the idea. On the one hand, it was because of Wang Hao's ability. Although the entertainment company had no major events for the time being, there were many daily affairs. If he managed another film company, or a newly started company that had to learn everything, it would add a lot of burden to Wang Hao. People's abilities are constantly growing, and Wang Hao is no exception. His current ability seems to be insufficient to supervise 2 major film projects at the same time. Especially for a newly established film company, someone must devote himself to it. On the other hand, as a leader, Su Ming must make some trade-offs. It is impossible for him to hand over most of his industries to one person, creating a situation where one person is superior to 10,000 people. This has nothing to do with personal feelings. Super Zoo. Author, Yin Seg Nian Bai. Chapter 567. Su Ming was very stingy with the various industries he currently had. For the zoo, several old employees headed by Sister Tong were in charge, Liang Shi was in charge of the fishery company, and the bald man could also help with the market. Wang Hao was in charge of the entertainment company, Dashan Wine was supervised by himself and Zhao Yun. The catering industry was the Hong family father and daughter. The future real estate company's current construction team was in charge of the uncle Su Desheng. The lure people in the 2 places were led by Ali I and his Sun. In addition, if Nangongyan was willing to resign in the future, she would be in charge of public opinion. With so many industries, if Su Ming had to do everything himself, he would not be able to handle it even if he had 3 heads and 6 arms. In addition to being a good helmsman, his biggest task was actually to ensure that the ability of animal friends was steadily improved. All these industries were based on animals. This was also the reason why he had to privatize the zoo. Of course, the privatization of Huaxia did not mean that the government could not interfere at all. If the government was really offended, no private property would be of any use. But in general, the privatization of the zoo can still greatly improve Su Ming's financial and management rights over the zoo. It's nothing more than spending a few $100 million. Spending a few $100 million to buy more than 10 years or decades of peace, Su Ming thinks this deal is very cost-effective. What's more, if he has a brain, why would he go to quarrel with the government? Back to the point, thinking about the candidate for the head of the film company, Su Ming considered for a long time, and Nangong Huang is one. He is still very young, and his future path may not only be an actor. He can try actor, director, and producer. This kid is smart enough, learns things quickly, and is quite to his liking. He is also a future relative of his own, and all conditions are suitable. It's just that his education level is a bit low. Education level does not represent ability, but it is by no means to say that the lower the education level, the higher the ability. Exceptions cannot represent all. Bill Gates dropped out of school because he was not good at studying. If there is a chance in the future, Nangong Huang can be allowed to continue his studies appropriately. It is not necessary to get a diploma. The main purpose is to broaden his horizons, improve his level, and get to know more people. However, Nangong Huang is too young after all, and has experienced too little. Su Ming would definitely not feel at ease if he were to take full charge of the film company now. There needs to be someone with certain industry experience and social experience to guide Nangong Huang for a few years. Jiao Xiaojun has been very depressed recently. Last year, he had the idea of ending the web series I'd Never Think of It and turning to the film industry. With the support of this belief, this year's work efficiency is surprisingly high. By the middle of the year, all the web series for the whole year had been filmed. In theory, his contractual relationship with the investor has ended, and he has become a free man, so he contacted various parties about filming, including Su Ming. Every time he called or met him online, he would talk about it. Just like the name of his web series, life is always full of surprises and astonishments, and many things are unexpected. Su Ming just rejected his proposal to cooperate in filming a movie, and then he filmed one himself. The horror movie Zootopia was released, and the box office was getting better and better. Xiao Xiao felt more and more upset. At first, he wanted to call Su Ming to ask what was going on and why he didn't tell him in advance. But the box office of Zootopia surged in a short period of time, and Xiao Xiao couldn't make the call. Calling at this time, wouldn't it be like going to the door to ask for punishment? Why should he ask for punishment? Su Ming and he were just good friends. They had worked together on an episode of a web series, and he helped Su Ming as a host several times. At the critical turning point when the web series was going downhill, it was Su Ming's animals that helped the web series regain its vitality and caused a sensation across the country. The effect was reciprocal, promoting the zoo and saving the web series at the same time. But strictly speaking, Su Ming still helped him. At present, it seems that the zoo can become popular without promotion, but the speed is a little slower, and if Su Ming hadn't helped at the beginning, the web series of the drama would have begun to decline. So, he had no right to ask for punishment. This is even more so now. Zootopia has achieved amazing box office results without him. They took him out to play because it was a favor and they gave him money on their own initiative. It was natural for them not to take him out to play. Artists who create art are all fragile. If they were thick-skinned, they would definitely call Su Ming without hesitation to get close to him. In order to realize their ideals, they would sell their butts. But Xiao Xiao just couldn't get over this hurdle. He was very worried and entangled. At this time, Su Ming called on his own initiative. A video call. Xiao Xiao hesitated for several seconds before gritted his teeth and pressed the button to accept the video call. Then he immediately put on an appearance of nothing happened and greeted him with a smile. "Hello, Mr. Su." Su Ming guessed about 70% of it when he saw his stiff expression. There was also the textbook-like classic standard official phrase "Hello, Mr. Su," which was completely unsuitable for friends. It perfectly explained what it meant to force a smile and pretend to be strong. Su Ming rolled his eyes at the camera and sighed. Xiao Xiao didn't notice. He was very nervous and didn't know what to say to Su Ming next. Should he pretend to casually change the topic to movies? Would it be too obvious if he did? Or should he keep quiet and wait for Su Ming to speak up? But what if Su Ming didn't say anything? While the poor glass-hearted artist was struggling, Su Ming spoke first and broke the deadlock. "I said, look at you like that, do you have any potential? You just show it on your face, and you still pretend to be fine. How about you pretend to be a little bit?" Being slapped in the face and sprayed with a few words made the beast angry and humiliated, but at the same time, it felt a little satisfying. It's still the same tone, the same taste, and the same Su Ming. If he hadn't been a friend, how could Su Ming have spoken like this? Feeling relieved, I still have to save my face, so I pretended to be angry and asked, "What do you mean? I don't understand. What am I pretending to be? Where am I pretending to be? If you keep pretending, I won't say anything. Brother, I'm also very busy. I have a lot of things to deal with at the movie box office," Su Ming said. When he heard the word movie, the little beast's heart beat wildly, as if a small bomb had exploded inside. Ahem. The barking beast coughed twice and became silent. "You are just too glass-hearted. Aren't you unhappy because you were not invited to participate in a movie? If you really wanted to participate, wouldn't you have made a phone call to ask about it?" When the movie first came out, Su Ming actually received a call from Han's father-in-law. Han's father-in-law knew Ming Xiao better. Although it was not stated clearly on the phone, Su Ming could tell that Han's father-in-law was actually asking if Ming Xiao was involved. Ming Xiao has been clamoring to make a movie. If he is not allowed to participate, it will be a big blow to him. Hearing Su Ming take the initiative to talk, the beast's nose felt sore and he almost couldn't help crying. If you cry, I won't play with you again," Su Ming was shocked. Super Zoo. Author, Yin Seg Nian Bai. Chapter 568. Su Ming was startled by the way he called the beast. Why did he end up like this without even saying a few words? "You shed tears whenever you disagree. Brother, with your masculine bald head, is it really okay for you to imitate women and shed tears? It would be fine if this was really a woman." Two grown men. When word spread, Su Ming was so angry that he cried. "Do you want to be a human being? How can you hang out in society? Stop it, brother. If you dare to cry, I will hang up the video immediately." Su Ming felt a chill running down his spine. He had never been so scared when facing his gunfire. "Nonsense, it was the wind and sand that blew into my eyes," the beast said deeply. "Why didn't you say it was struck by lightning?" Su Ming was completely speechless. Didn't he know how to make up a reliable excuse? Where does the wind and sand in the indoor environment come from? "Speaking of wind and sand, the atmosphere becomes even more desolate," said the beast. Su Ming decided not to continue talking about this topic, and said directly, "Last time I was going to call you, but something went wrong during the shooting. I rushed to deal with it, but then there was a lot of chaos and things, and I was so busy that I forgot. And to be honest, the crew has already been decided." This is the first time for both parties to cooperate. I really don't know what to do if I ask you to come here. It's my first time making a film, so I have to be cautious. I hope you can understand. Some people say that true friends don't need explanations. It sounds reasonable, but it's actually a change of concept. Friends understand each other deeper than ordinary relationships. The better the relationship between friends, the deeper they understand each other, and the less likely it is that misunderstandings will occur. This does not mean that misunderstandings will not occur. If misunderstandings occur, to make it clear, we must make it clear. No one is a roundworm in someone else's belly. A person often dare not say that he understands himself 100%, let alone others. Of course, Su Ming didn't have to explain this to Ming Xiao. Just as Ming Xiao thought, Su Ming didn't owe him anything and had no obligation to explain. Su Ming took the initiative to explain and had already made his attitude clear. The next step would be to see what the beast's attitude would be. If he was upset about this matter, then Su Ming felt there was no need to continue the conversation. There is nothing wrong with having a glass heart, but the Tao is different, so there is no need to force it. As soon as those words were spoken, the depression in the beast's heart was relieved. He patted his bald head and said, "Hey, I wanted to call you, but I hesitated a few times, but your movie was released. I say, you won't just make one movie, right?" "Of course not," Su Ming said, "not only do I want to continue filming, I am also planning to set up a film company. I don't have enough manpower. If you are free, would you like to come and help me?" "I wish I could. I've always wanted to talk to you about this, but I just don't know how to ask," the beast said happily. Su Ming nodded, "That's good, but as I said before, you are an expert in making online dramas. I participated in the filming of the movie this time, and found that there is still a big gap between it and the online drama. If you come, you should first be a vice president. I'm afraid I don't have many soldiers under my title, so I have to learn everything from scratch." "That's easy to say. Even if you don't mention it, I still have to find a place to study," said the beast. "Stop looking for a place. I have a ready-made place here, the Huaxia Star Company in Xiangjiang. Their company is shooting movies almost every day. You and a relative of mine will go there to study together." "Do you know the boss of Huaxia Star?" Ming Xiao was stunned. Long Wu has a transcendent status in the history of Hong Kong films. Huaxia Star Company has a long history, has close ties with many big-name actors and directors, and has produced many famous movies. It is one of the only remaining large companies in the Hong Kong film industry. Filmmakers can go to Huaxia Star to study, which is no less than the graduates of Capital Renmin University interning in the central ministries and commissions, and the graduates studying computer science going to Microsoft for internship. There was no objection to calling the beast. While chatting via video, he had already booked a flight to Yangchuan City online. In addition, our friends are friends, and our work is our work. If there is anything, we must explain it in advance. Whether it is a joint venture or cooperation between the two parties, the first thing that must be clearly discussed is the division of power and the distribution of interests. The biggest obstacle for Jing Xiao to enter the film industry is funds. He should have saved some money on hand to shoot online dramas, which is still barely enough to make a small production movie. But not every small production can make money. The vast majority of small productions will end up like the ones released in the same period as Zootopia, knocking down grandma's house on the street. Su Ming dared to spend 10 million to test the waters because he had far more than 10 million in funds. He was famous on the internet, but for him to spend so much money at once was overwhelming. Once your wealth is ruined, it is difficult to turn it around. People's mentality is very subtle, just like stock trading. For the same amount of money, if it is used for food or even borrowed money, people will often worry about gains and losses, making it difficult to make a calm and objective judgment. If the money is idle, it will be idle. If you lose, your life will not be affected, and your mentality will be completely different. In a relaxed state, you may be able to perform beyond your standard. So the richer the person, the easier it is to make money. A cooperation plan was quickly negotiated. Su Ming and Ming Xiao were in an employment relationship. Ming Xiao served as a vice president of the film company and received monthly salary and bonuses. If the film was to be invested in a movie, for the first 3 movies, Ming Xiao would have the highest salary. More than 20% of the preferential investment rights. In addition, Ming Xiao's position in the film company means that for him, Su Ming's resources are used to train him. If he wants to go solo in the future, he needs to work in the company for at least 2 years. This was a plan that everyone could accept. Jiao Xiao flew to Yangchuan City on the 3rd day. After signing the agreement, he and Nangang Huang took the flight of the day and flew directly to Hong Kong. Tony also went with him. Registration for several events of the Hong Kong Jockey Club at the end of the year had already started. Tony went back to register for 2 horses. In Hong Kong, Huaxia Star had already started contacting theaters in various Asian countries. Nangang Huang and Jiao Xiao joined the negotiation team directly after getting off the plane that day. The verbal battles at the negotiation table were fierce. According to the news sent back by Jiao Xiao and Nangang Huang, when the quarrel was the most intense, it was almost no different from the shrews scolding in the market. They exposed each other's past, belittled each other, and did everything they could. They only listened and did not speak. In the short 2-week negotiation, they tried their best to absorb the skills of negotiating with theaters like the Dry Sea Surface, and learn the current situation and inside stories of theaters in many countries, as well as the process of overseas distribution. Time flies. While the domestic summer movie season is still in full swing, Huaxia Star finally secured the Asian distribution of Zootopia. A total of 52 million Chinese yuan were sold. A win-win situation. Longwu made a decent profit, and the 158 million yuan in domestic box office revenue went into Su Ming's pocket. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Super Zoo. Author, Yin Seg Nian Bai. Chapter 569. Let us say that because of Mr. Muzhou's martial arts skills, Yu Fei's family was poor and he could not travel. He accidentally touched his own ambitions, so he wrote this poem on the wall. Today the macaw plays Yu Quan Swan. After the sun sets in the evening, the small theater at the entrance of Tingfeng Pavilion is full of people. They are enjoying the lake breeze by the Shuahun Lake, drinking tea and listening to books, which is quite cool. The price is not expensive, you can hang out for half a day for only a dozen yuan. It is a good place to spend time in summer. If it were any other animal performing every day, no one would be able to bear it. For example, those lucky cats only show up once a week as mascots, and spend the rest of the time playing around. After all, animals are different from humans. They are naturally active and cannot be restrained. Even humans who are sensible and self-disciplined will still be exhausted even if they work 8 hours a day 5 days a week, let alone animals. Therefore, Su Ming would fully consider this when arranging jobs for the animals. In the past, his finances were tight and he had to make the animals work harder. But it is different now. Those who can take vacations basically take vacations, or add new employees. For example, the opening hours of the big fish riding project in Shuahun Lake are still the same. But the number of big fish has increased to 30. These 2 parrots are the only exceptions. They are naturally talkative. When they were kept in a cage, they would talk non-stop all day long. Now they are placed in the position of performing arts workers, which is exactly what they are doing. As long as the water pipes are enough to feed them, they will not stop talking except for eating and sleeping. This is exactly what the mouse fell into the oil urn, and the dung beetle crawled into the manure pit and found the organization. Maybe it was because of their mental strength. The more these two guys talked, the smoother their words became and the bigger their brains became. At first, they could only say a few simple cross-talk sentences. After a week, they could memorize a paragraph intermittently. Now that I've finished storytelling, I'll go on stage and finish speaking. I'll recite a paragraph next time. Of course, forgetting words still happens frequently. An advantage of animal performances is that the audience is very tolerant. If a professional storytelling artist makes a mistake or forgets the words mid-sentence, he will definitely be booed to death by the audience below. But parrots are different. Every time they forget the words, the following it was all good-natured laughter. Over time, a small theater has formed at the entrance of Tingfeng Pavilion. People who come here are not necessarily eating, but mostly passing the time by enjoying the cool air. Many elderly people have got annual passes to the zoo and come here for a walk every day. Has become a new attraction in the zoo. Every time Su Ming came to Tingfeng Pavilion for dinner, he would see a large group of people, old and young, sitting at the door. As soon as I walked to the door that day, after the parrot standing on the cornice finished speaking, he suddenly seemed to be under a restraining spell. He stood there motionless for a while, his eyes turned around, and he said sound, like a chicken being pinched by the neck. There was a burst of laughter at the door, and the words were forgotten again. The parrot interrupted and called out to the audience below in a depressed tone, wake up, wake up. Someone below laughed loudly and said, it's Joe Tong's turn. The parrot flapped its wings, oh yes, speaking of Joe Tong. Su Ming smiled and walked towards the Tingfeng Pavilion. The female greeter standing at the door was halfway up in trance, listening to the parrot talking. When she saw Su Ming coming, she quickly led the way and led him upstairs. Is everyone here? Su Ming asked, following behind. The greeter nodded, I just arrived. I'm waiting for you. There is only one private room on the entire 4th floor, which Su Ming usually uses to eat and entertain guests. When he came up, there were already several people sitting in the private room, chatting, and the atmosphere was very good. Nangong Huang, who came back from Xiangjiang, was called the Beast, a fat man with a face full of flesh. Seeing Su Ming coming, Jingshao and Nangong Huang stood up from their chairs, waved their hands towards Su Ming, and said to the fat man with a smile, Director Wang, let me introduce to you, this is our boss, Mr. Su. I have admired my name for a long time, I have admired my name for a long time. The fat man took the initiative to shake hands with Su Ming, with a smile on his face. Director Wang, hello. I have admired your name for a long time. I grew up watching your movies. Su Ming smiled and said, please have a seat. The fat director in front of him is none other than director Wang Jin, one of the two famous kings in the Hong Kong film industry. Wang Jin and Wong Kar-wai, one is a vulgar comedy, and the other is a serious, pretentious literary style. The former has been successful at the box office, but has never been able to win various awards. Can win prizes. Wang Jin is definitely one of Waxia Star's royal directors. When he came to Yangchuan City this time, he was also introduced by Long Wu, who wanted to shoot a film in the zoo. Su Ming agreed without thinking. The attractions in the zoo were empty. Shooting scenes for movies could increase some of his income. If many movies are shot here in the future, it would also be very beneficial to the promotion of the scenic spot. You can even build a small film and television city. Money is secondary, and the most important thing is that since you want to step into this industry, it will only have advantages and no disadvantages to get to know more well-known figures in the industry. I have read your Zootopia several times, and I still feel overwhelmed and admired when I think about it. Su Ming glanced at the plate of cold chicken feet on the table and thought to himself, you're so worried, you still want to eat it. I don't know if he ordered pork trotters. Shuangfa exchanged a few polite words and got to the point. Wang Jin is going to make a movie this time called The Fairy Tale, which tells the follow-up story of a Chinese ghost story. Judging from the name, you can tell that it is another nonsensical movie, similar to the movie The Treasure Box played by Sun Li a few years ago. In order to find Xiao Qian, the protagonist Ning Keichan uses the fairy world time travel machine to travel through various legendary fairy worlds. These include the world of Legend of the White Snake, the world of a Chinese ghost story, the world of Painted Skin, the world of Investiture of the Gods. It is indeed a pure comedy, a standard nonsensical commercial film. However, Su Ming feels that the real purpose of this film is to build momentum for Huaxia Star's big production Investiture of the Gods and set off a magical style. The Lanruo Temple hot spring on the back mountain of the zoo has been officially renovated and can be used as a scene for the world of a Chinese ghost story. In addition, Gaiyu Xianzhou can be used as the hometown of the nine-tailed fox in the world of Painted Skin. Almost one-third of Wang Jin's film will be shot in the zoo. I have something else I want to ask you for help, Mr. Su. There must be animals in the magical world, Wang Jin said with a smile. No problem, how much do you want? Su Ming nodded. Not too much, many are group shots, and animals do not need to perform special performances. There are performance tasks, up to 10. I don't know how to calculate the pay, Wang Jing said. Su Ming's animal pay is charged on a per animal per day basis, which is much higher than that of extras. Different animals have different prices. Some are more difficult to tame, and their value is almost as high as that of third-tier celebrities whose names you have heard of. However, if there are only 10, it won't be much money. Su Ming thought about it and didn't quote. Dividing line. 0.65 add 1.6 add 0.95 add 0.35 equal 3.55, I calculated it 3 times with the computer this time, well, it shouldn't be wrong. I am brave enough to take all the responsibilities. This can't be blamed on my math teacher, because he died too early. Of course, it can't be blamed on the physical education teacher, because he teaches physical education. Super Zoo. Author, Yin Seg Nian Bai. Chapter 570. This film is a quick film, with a total shooting period of less than 2 months. The filming time in the zoo is at most 3 weeks, with 10 animals acting. Su Ming can't make much money, even less than the venue fee. Director Wang, you are my idol, how can I ask you for such a small amount of money? Su Ming laughed, and his eyes drifted over Nangong Huang and Jiaoshao again. Wang Jin is also a wonderful person. Seeing Su Ming's eyes, he immediately understood what he meant and slapped his thigh. There is another thing I want to ask you for help. I am short of an executive deputy director and a male third. I wonder if Mr. Su can give up and lend me these 2 generals. Talking to smart people is easy, and there is no need to point it out. With a look and a word, both parties know it well. It is obvious that they are helping each other, and they also make the other party feel that they have accepted the other party's favor, and both parties are happy. Nangong Huang is still mainly pursuing the actor route for the time being. He is familiar with movies through acting. Jiaoshao has experience in shooting online dramas. He will start directly as an assistant director and realize the transformation from online drama director to movie director as soon as possible. Speaking of learning to shoot commercial movies, Su Ming really can't think of anyone more suitable than Wang Jin. After the main matters of both parties were settled, they talked about some gossip about this big talk about the immortal. The actors Wang Jin found surprised Su Ming. The heroine is Ab and the hero is Zhao Yaoding. These 2 people don't look like they are acting in comedies. I can't understand what this fat man is thinking. Is he really going to shoot a love movie? Besides, how high is Ab's salary? The second male lead has some connection with Su Ming. Zhang Jiawei, who has always been a part-timer but has never appeared, plays Yan Shixia. Seeing this configuration, Su Ming's head is full of black lines. A movie that is careless from director to actor. When making a movie to Wang Jin's level, the idea is probably different from that of Su Ming, who is at the entry level, and is much more relaxed. It can be seen from the meal that ordinary directors will definitely talk about business at the dinner table. After a few words of business, director Wang really shifted his attention to the dishes and wine. He regarded this trip to Yangchuan for filming as more of a journey and a life experience. People can only live for a few decades. Whether it is life or work, just be happy. Wang Jin's mouth was full of oil. Rare delicacy, Susheng, can I book a box here during the filming? Of course, there are boxes on the second and third floors. Su Ming smiled and said, but it's very expensive. Director Wang, do you have enough funds? You have to spend money if you make money. If you encounter such delicious food, if you are reluctant to spend money, even if the crew doesn't say that I am stingy as a director, I will not be sorry for my stomach, Wang Jin said while patting his big belly. Speaking of food, Su Ming suddenly thought of a Hong Kong movie a long time ago, Manchuhan Banquet. Starring Leslie Cheung, Anita Yuen, and Kenny B. I have always been deeply impressed by Tsui Hark's films. Wang Jin pointed to a plate of crystal sweet and sour pork on the table with chopsticks. Su Ming was going to ask Wang Jin if he was interested in reshooting. He had a ready-made beautiful chef. Reshooting a full banquet would be fine even if it didn't make money. Through the movie, the brand of Tingfeng Pavilion could be completely established. Maybe it could be used to expand the scale and enter the restaurant business. After thinking about it, he swallowed the words back. The time is not right now. Besides, it is not necessary to find Wang Jin to shoot the movie. After dinner, Su Ming accompanied Wang Jin to the back mountain to inspect the shooting area. Wang Jin chose two scenic spots, Gaiyuxianju and Lanruo Temple Hot Spring. He is a famous director who will be recognized wherever he goes. In order to avoid confusion, Su Ming found a special outfit for Lao Wang, the kind of bamboo hat worn by beekeepers, with gauze curtains hanging down around it, which can cover the face 360 degrees without dead angles to avoid being seen. Su Ming knew two people with the surname Wang, both of whom were fat, Wang Hao and Wang Jin. Wang Jin was fatter than Wang Hao. He was known as the Fat Mantis of Hong Kong back then. After putting on the bamboo hat, Nangong Huang chuckled, Director Wang, you don't need to put on makeup to play Kung Fu Panda. The fans of Fat Mantis will be disappointed, Wang Jin said with a smile. The speaker is unintentional, but the listener is intentional. Nangong Wang's eyes lit up, and he pulled Su Ming and whispered, brother-in-law, now that you mention it, I remember that there is a Mantis Empire in the Pandaren version of the World of Warcraft game. We can definitely shoot it in the future. Of course, Su Ming has considered World of Warcraft since the day he prepared to make a movie. This online game has a terrifying fan base all over the world. After more than a dozen years, it can be said that it is a game that has grown up with a generation. Most of the races in it are animals. If you use animals to shoot a World of Warcraft, you will definitely make a fortune. I know there will be opportunities in the future. Su Ming nodded and smiled calmly. Just like the Manchuhan banquet I just thought of, Su Ming, who has animal resources, has a huge natural advantage in the film industry, which is why he is determined to enter the film and television industry. But you have to eat one bite at a time and take one step at a time. It is precisely because Warcraft is a super IP and an almost inexhaustible gold mine that you can't act rashly. If you force it to shoot when you are not capable in all aspects, it will only ruin this good subject. When you can come up with 500 million to 1 billion Chinese yuan, and the film company has rich industry experience, it will not be too late to make a move. The world is full of temptations. If you want to reach the peak in the distance, you must first take every step in front of you. Director Wang, please. Su Ming gestured and led the way along the path towards Gaiyuxianju. Standing at the foot of the mountain, Wang Jin sighed. The hillside in front of him was simply a pastoral ink painting. After the transformation, the hillside was opened up with staggered terraces. Outside the fields, there were many exquisitely crafted water wheels, which creaked and pumped water from the Shuahun Lake to irrigate the terraces. On the hillside, a waterway drawn from the Kinling Mountains gathered into a small waterfall, falling layer by layer along the mountain. This terraced field was actually planted with crops, all of which were high-quality rice introduced by Suming from all over the country. The water for irrigating these rice mostly came from Shuahun Lake. Because there was a channel between the lake bottom and the Shuaxi Lake, the water from Shuahun Lake was indirect Tai Sui water, which made the grain on the entire hillside grow well. Small scarecrows can be seen everywhere in the fields. Many birds of various species are not afraid of scarecrows. Instead, they perch on the shoulders and heads of scarecrows and chirp and sing. Some lure people work hard in the fields wearing straw hats. The total area of the fields is not large, about 200 acres. On the hillside of the terraced fields, a small village can be seen faintly in the shade of peach blossoms. Of course, it is not people who live here, but fox fairies. A series of stone paths pass through the terraced fields and lead to the fox fairy residence. On the path, there are many tourists, who stop from time to time to take pictures of the surrounding beauty. Wow, no wonder brother she insisted on letting me come here to take pictures. Wang Jin was almost stunned.